I'm straight. I mean, can you imagine if I was the third gay comic in a row? Someone would be like, make sure the door's not locked. What is happening? What have we signed up for? And I know I'm straight, because I always switch back to straight porn before I finish. That's how you know, right? You guys are a lot of fun. You guys are good. You're fun. A few of you are looking at me right now like, what is this guy doing here? I already know Microsoft Excel. Don't worry, I make learning fun. All right. I get it, though. I give off a bit of a spreadsheet vibe. Like, I feel like there are some guys, you look at them and you just know they're fun. People look at me and they just know I'm organized. You know? Like, there are some comics that have such like a cool rock and roll vibe on stage that audience members will like send them shots on stage during the show. I feel like if one of you were to send me something during the show, it would be an email with a tax question. It's very different. How is everybody feeling? About global warming? How are we feeling? I think about global warming the same way I think about my receding hairline. Like, people tell me it's happening, I'm pretending it's not. And my solution for both is exactly the same, the hat. I don't think electric cars are the answer, by the way. I think if you own an electric car, I think it's half environmental and half just virtue signaling. I do, right? Because it's not going to be that much longer until we start seeing those articles. You know, like some headline in the paper that's just about like a 500-foot tall pile of old Tesla batteries just leaching toxins into the groundwater. You know? And the Flint, Michigan Gazette is just like, fool us once. I'm in from New York. I live in New York, but I grew up in Canada. Like a lot of immigrants that came to this country with nothing. Everything was shipped, and like, I'm an immigrant, but I'm American passing. You can't tell, right? I only tell people I'm Canadian on stage or if I'm losing an argument about healthcare. I made the mistake of telling my neighbor once. He goes, "Oh, you're Canadian. No wonder you're so polite." I was like, "Actually, that's a stereotype." And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I was like, "Well, now it's cultural appropriation." That's our thing, you know? Biggest adjustment moving from Canada to the US is getting off the metric system. I weigh twice as much here. I keep jogging too far. And it takes forever for water to boil. On the other hand, a lot of women used to be intimidated by 22 centimeters. Someone's gonna do that conversion. Put your phones away. I'll save you the trouble. 22 centimeters. It's 0.000167 miles. I moved here for school originally. That's why I moved to America. I ended up getting a master's degree at MIT. I worked on Wall Street for a decade, and then I became a comedian. So, oh wow, thank you, yeah. Really wanted to tease my parents before I disappointed them. Like, for 10 years, my parents were telling all their friends that their son was a vice president at Goldman Sachs, and now my parents are telling all their friends that their son was a vice president at Goldman Sachs. And it's funny when I tell people I went to MIT, because people tend to have one of two reactions, right? Either they're impressed, and they should be. There's a reason Good Will Hunting wasn't a janitor at Yale. I feel like some of you didn't get them apples, but if you didn't get that joke, it's okay. It's a reference to a movie from the 90s, right? If you didn't get that joke, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. The other reaction I get is people just don't believe me. One time this guy was like, "You just don't look like you went to MIT." I was like, "Is it because I don't look smart?" And he goes, "No, it's because you're making eye contact." The funniest question I've ever gotten after a show is, "Did you know you wanted to do stand-up comedy when you went to MIT?" No. What? I didn't go to MIT to do stand-up comedy. I went to MIT for the women. So why you go there, you know? I'm a married guy. We live in Brooklyn, New York, and a fair trade coffee shop opened up in our neighborhood. I didn't know exactly what it was, a fair trade coffee shop, but I went the week it opened because I wanted to support a new local small business, right? I go in, order a medium coffee with room for milk. The barista goes, that'll be $10. I was like, that's not a fair trade. What just happened? Do I own the coffee shop now? That's crazy. Then I had to ask for milk. I'm like, can I please get some milk? He goes, absolutely. What kind would you like? I was like, well, what do you have? He goes, we have everything except cow. I was just like, all right, give me breast. And then he poured something into the coffee. I think it was worth $10. My knee feels fantastic now. I'm going back now just for the milk. We also had like a boutique hotel open up in our neighborhood. My wife said, hey, Adam, next time you're in town and you don't have a show, let's spend a night at the new boutique hotel down the street, have like a staycation. And we did it. We did it recently. And for more money than I will ever admit out loud. We spent one night watching a different TV. And the hotel was so new it didn't have room service yet. Halfway through the night, she sent me back to our apartment to heat up leftovers to bring back to the hotel. When we first moved in together, the first thing she did, she made me throw out all of my towels because they weren't a set. And I was like, if you use them long enough, they'll match. She's like, they're all just disgusting shades of gray. I was like, exactly. Some of them started off blue. We're in this like one-bedroom Brooklyn apartment. It's not very big, right? A few months ago, something wakes her up at like 3 a.m. She elbows me awake. She's like, Adam, I heard something in the other room. Go check it out. So I went into the living room and I watched TV for an hour. When I went back into the bedroom, she was fast asleep. Which means she assumed the murderer just killed me and left. I was wearing a black t-shirt the other day. Not unlike this one. She goes, hey, Adam, have you lost some weight or is black slimming? I was like, you could just stop at the compliment. Like, as a general rule, I think after you compliment someone, pause. Before you offer an alternative explanation. Like, I would never say to her, like, is your cooking getting better or are we ordering in more? Like, I'd never do that. She knew she'd messed up too. She tried to cover it up. She goes, Adam, I was just trying to tell you, you look good. You look good. I was like, okay, thank you. Then she goes, you know what? It'd be nice if you told me I looked good every once in a while. Yeah. I was like, you look good every once in a while. We have a dog. We have an 8-pound Chihuahua, and now you're laughing at me. But the other day she's out walking the dog. I'm back at the apartment, right? And she texted me while she's walking the dog, and the text just said, "Can you please do me a gigantic favor? Can you preheat the oven to 400 degrees?" And I just thought, that's not a gigantic favor. That's just pressing a couple buttons, right? But then I thought, what does that say about what she thinks of me if she thinks that I think that that's a gigantic favor? Right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't do it. I got so distracted by her definition of gigantic. Right? Is it greater than or less than 22 centimeters? I have a 20-year-old cousin, and I like it because she'll correct me if I use a word that you're not supposed to use anymore. It's really helpful. Like, she told me recently I'm not supposed to say prostitute anymore. She said that's not considered very demeaning. You're supposed to say sex worker. Yeah, I was like, oh, thank you. You look like a sex worker. I got the word right. We were out to dinner when she told me this, and I'd ordered like ravioli. And I get the ravioli entree, and it was like 3 or 4 tiny little ravioli. Without even thinking about it, I just kind of blurted out. I was like, oh man, they really gypped me on the ravioli. My cousin goes, whoa, you can't say that. I was like, you can't say ravioli anymore? She goes, no, you can't say gypped, because it's derived from gypsy. It's derogatory towards gypsies. was like, thank you so much for telling me, because I don't want to offend any of those roving con artists that go from town to town. Like, if you say gyp, then you offend a gypsy. Check your pockets. They were creating a diversion. I don't know. You never know what's going to set someone off anymore, right? You just never know. We got new neighbors on our floor in our apartment building, and we got some of his mail. So I was like, I'll take him his mail, introduce myself, meet my new neighbor. So I grabbed the letters. I walk down the hall, knock on his door. He opens it. I hand him his mail. I'm like, hey, I'm Adam from down the hall. It's nice to meet you, Dave. He just goes, it's Dave. I was like, it doesn't have to be. I feel like that's a choice. I don't know. Maybe people are weird about their names. Maybe that's what it is. Like, I was at this industry event not too long ago where people had name tags on. There was a woman off by herself. She looked kind of bored, so I went over. I pointed at my name tag. I was like, hey, I'm Adam. Nice to meet you, Lana. She goes, it's not Lana, it's Lana. She was like all offended. I was like, I'm so sorry. Okay, it's Lana. I got it. But like, either way, it's anal backwards. She goes, actually, it's short for Svetlana. I was like, whatever, anal tabs. I don't care. I'm at an age now where most of my friends have kids, but I don't have kids, and my friends with kids hate that I don't have kids. The same way drunks hate it when you're not drinking. Right? But at least a drunk never makes you look at a picture of their drink. Like, I have a friend, and he had 3 little girls, and his wife got pregnant again by accident with twin girls. Yeah, he went from having 3 little girls to having 5 little girls. Last time I talked to him, he goes, Adam, forget everything you know about math. 5 is 1,000,000 times more than 3. And I can't relate to having kids, but I know what he means. Right? Because if my parents called me and said, Adam, we want to visit you in New York City for 3 days, I'd say, of course you can, you're family. But if they called and said, Adam, we want to come visit you in New York City for 5 days, I'd be like, I'm in Houston that week. 5 can be 1,000,000 times more than 3. Like, if I eat 3 donuts, I'll work a little extra hard at the gym, not a big deal, right? But if I eat 5 donuts, I'll just finish the dozen. It doesn't matter at that point. 5 is 1,000,000 times more than 3, right? Like, okay, if you saw me put 3 sugars in my coffee, you'd think he likes his coffee sweet. But if you saw me put 5 sugars in my coffee, you'd think, like, this guy just quit cocaine. 5 is 1,000,000 times more than 3. Okay, like if I was in a relationship with 2 women and me, we'd be a throuple, right? But if it was me and 4 women, if there were 5 of us, we wouldn't be a throuple. We'd be Mormon. 5 can be 1,000,000 times more than 3. If I killed 3 people, I'm a murderer. If I kill 5, I'm the star of a Netflix documentary. 5 could be 1,000,000 times more than 3. Like, take this joke. 3 examples would have been sufficient. All right, I'm Adam Muller. You guys have been so much fun. Enjoy the show, everybody.